first, live, local. This is Fox 12 Now.
Hello, everyone. This is Fox 12 Now. Thanks for joining us. I'm Greg Nibbler, looking at some footage there from the Strait of Hormuz. This is not live, but they're in the Middle East, and this is after the ceasefire that was announced yesterday, but now current announcements, if you're watching right now, as of 1:33 p.m. for the live portion of this on Wednesday, April 8th. It sounds like it is closed again, but that could, of course, could be subject to change at any point. And we're going to talk about that and how that, more importantly, how gas prices are being affected here locally, just for this segment. And we're going to be talking about that with Marie Dodds from AAA Oregon. Marie, thank you for joining us. I can only imagine, what it's like trying to estimate what is going to happen with crude oil and gas prices. But I guess as far as where we are right now, today, at this moment, have we seen prices drop at all since yesterday, or any kind of change in that?
No, we haven't seen prices drop yet. What we have seen over the last week was smaller increases. So during the conflict, we were talking about 30-cent and 25-cent increases week over week. This past week, we had more moderate increases. The national average is up about 10 cents in the last week. The Oregon average up about 6 cents in the last week. So we'll take that because we're seeing smaller increases. Right now, with crude oil, it's an interesting story because crude oil prices shot up this week to around $112 a barrel. That was the closing price on Monday and Tuesday of this week. And then today, crude oil is back down into the mid-$90 per barrel range. So it sounds good, like a significant drop, but this price around $95, $96, $97 a barrel is where crude oil has been for much of March, basically since the conflict started in Iran. So to think that we've seen a big drop in crude oil prices and that's going to result in lower gas prices, the price that crude is at now is where it's been for much of the last several weeks. So it isn't like we're going to see gas prices start to drop significantly anytime soon.
When we're talking about the averages, just to go into that again, here for the Northwest, Oregon and Washington, what are we seeing at right now?
Yeah, the Oregon average is at $5.01 a gallon, and that's up 6 cents in the last week. The Portland average is 5.08, and that's up 5 cents in the last week. And in Washington, let me quickly pull that one up for you. The Washington average is currently 5.40, and that's up about 4 to 5 cents in the last week.
Okay, so yeah, still going up, and I guess whatever happens politically and everything that's happening over there, at the end of the day, it's these crude oil prices. If, say, the Strait does, open up, just open up right now, and they let all the ships go through, would that, or could that, just the fact that it opens up, have an effect on the gas prices?
Yeah, you would expect that it would have an impact on gas prices in time, but there are so many questions, first of all, about the Strait of Hormuz. Will it open up fully? Will there be problems? And then how quickly will normal tanker traffic resume in the Strait? And even if the waterway reopens, there are questions about how quickly production might be able to return to more normal levels. We've been hearing about significant damage to oil infrastructure, which has been bombed in the region. So that's not a situation where you can flick a switch and oil production is going to be back to normal. If there is significant damage, that's something that could take months, and sometimes years to rebuild. So a lot of unknowns right now, but certainly getting the Strait of Hormuz open would be a good first step. As has been reported, about 20% of global oil supplies travel through that strait, which is why we've seen oil markets just go crazy with the closure.
Looking for people here as we're getting in towards summer travel plans, flights, or just road trips, or just trying to plan out on that side of things. Is there anything that anybody can do to try to get ahead of that, or understand, budget even for something that's going to be possibly, if these prices stay this way for a long time?
Yeah. Well, at this point, I think that if crude oil prices settle down, and this week crude is in the mid $90 per barrel range, if crude settles down a little bit, even drops into the mid 80s, we would see gas prices maybe stabilize or ease a little bit. But here's the thing, the day before the conflict, crude oil prices were at $67 a barrel. So even if crude oil settles down, the prices are still significantly higher than where they were. So at this point, unless we have something dramatic happen, I think it's probably reasonable to expect that gas prices are going to remain elevated compared to where they were a few months ago and certainly last year. I don't think we're going to have a summer where gas prices are going to be cheaper than they were in 2025. But it's just so difficult to try to predict anything because there are so many questions right now about the ceasefire. Will it hold? Will the Strait of Hormuz actually open? And then what kind of damage has there been to oil infrastructure in the Persian Gulf? So many unknowns right now. Makes it really tough to fire up that crystal ball and make any kind of reasonable prediction.
Anything else that you think is important for people to know, Marie?
I think shop around. You want to try to find the least expensive gas near you. There are so many apps you can put on your phone that help you do that. The AAA mobile app is a great one. It's free on the App Store and Google Play. But as we all know, when you're driving around, even gas stations across the street from each other can have very different pricing. So get the cheapest gas that you can find right now.
Is that just a personal decision on those, or a business decision on those locations, as far as seeing the big, differences in price like that?
Yeah, there are no laws when it comes to pricing gasoline. And so there are as many business plans as there are gas stations. And so a lot goes into that pricing. Most gas stations are independently owned and they buy the product at a certain price. And then they're trying to have enough markup so that they can cover their costs. And, some areas are super competitive where every station will charge the least amount. Some gas stations will charge the product like a loss leader and maybe charge a little bit less in hopes you'll come fill up there and then go in the store and buy a bottle of water and a bag of chips. There are other gas stations that might be in a more affluent area and can get away with charging a little bit more. But, again, there are as many business plans as there are gas stations. So that's why it's really important to shop around because the price can vary greatly from station to station.
All right, great advice. Well, thank you as always for being here with us, and I'm sure we'll be talking to you soon too. As you mentioned, there's no way to really predict where this is all going to be going or what's going to be happening with the pricing.
Yeah, I wish I had better news for you, Greg, but thank you as always.
Yeah, thanks, Marie. All right, and we're going to continue on here with Fox 12 Now. So again, live streaming here out of the Fox 12 Oregon newsroom, and just talking about those gas prices. What is going to be happening with that? What can we expect? So we will get you any information we can as soon as possible. Let's take a quick break, though. We'll be right back with more here on Fox 12 Now.